watching all those people who said Twitter is the most banal, pointless waste of time I have ever heard. An emotional relationship you have. An emotional relationship. It's really very simple. Therefore, you want something in your pocket that makes you smile, that you stroke. Occasionally will annoy you, of course, like a real thing. Not something that just plain delivers function, because that's not who we are. We are human beings. And therefore, it perhaps, retrospectively, should come as no surprise that the next big thing of the internet, a year ago, was something that connected us as human beings in the most basic, primitive, and simple way. It wasn't devised by business for business. It wasn't devised as a means of generating money and revenue. It was simply, as its name said, a way of getting people to babble inconsequentially to each other in an enjoyable way. You must remember, it's called Twitter. And there is something about a social network, a web of social interaction, like a spider's web, which means those who are part of it are immensely sensitive to every twitch on the filament of its gossamer. And they know straight away when someone is selling them, when someone is preaching to them, when someone is trying to manipulate. There was no class of person more contemptuous of Twitter than the commentating journalist in Britain a year ago, 8 months ago, 6 months ago. Twitter. Aren't you just fed up with Twitter? They would go, why should we care about what Britney Spears ate for breakfast or what Stephen Fry thinks about this? Quite, why should they? I absolutely agree. Then don't fucking write about it, you idiot. But I can understand it, because a number of things in Twitter really do disturb what, if I can be unkind enough to call, the Deadwood press is worried about. People like me, twillionaires, if you will, we can cut out the press from our PR requirements. We don't need them anymore. I can speak to millions just by typing into my keyboard. And not only that, you can say, let's say there's a showbiz journalist called Peter Soapdish. Peter Soapdish writes something unpleasant about you in the newspaper, and you can instantly tell Twitter, oh, Peter Soapdish is a tosser. Everyone in show business hates him. Everyone knows he is useless. Whenever he goes to showbiz parties, people just laugh at him because he's completely unconnected. This is really aggravating if you're a journalist, really upsetting and worrying. On the other hand, how useful a Twitter stream is for lazy news reporting. So you can just simply report whatever the celebrity's saying and dress it up a bit and follow it. You don't have to check anything. So the whole thing's in a really weird, it's really important for me that people understand that the Twitter millions are the ones who decide. It's such a pity that so many people who don't understand Twitter, and there's no intellectual complexity that makes you understand it. It is merely participating in it that allows you to understand it. If you participate in Twitter, by which I mean if you tweet and read other people's tweets and are aware of the pulse and the rhythm of an average tweet day, if you like, a Twittering day, then you understand it, and then you know where the noise really is. Internet is like a city, and the great cities of the world have built up organically in different ways, and like great cities, it has its museums, its art galleries, it has its libraries, its resources, it has its teeming millions, and it has its slums, and it has its red light districts, it has areas you wouldn't want children to go alone and unaccompanied, and it has churches, and it has businesses, and it has shops, and it has all those qualities. And cities have a small amount of governance, but essentially the nature and atmosphere of a city is determined by its citizens. Essentially there's a kind of bubbling mixture of anarchy and liberty and a sort of social organisation, a communitarian self-help, plus, yes, governance that makes it all muddled together in an inefficient way. Sometimes the traffic is unbearable in a city, sometimes the pollution and the noise and the aggression and the crime make you think I'm not going to live in this city anymore. But generally speaking, thank God for these places. What energy they give us, what excitement, what commerce, what brilliance, what innovation. And Twitter is part of that energy. It's part of that dynamic in human history. And of course it'll be replaced or it'll fuse into something else. Of course it will. There is a new next big thing brewing in someone's mind. They probably don't know it'll be the next big thing any more than Biz Stone knew that Twitter would be the next big thing. But something will happen, and it will excite us. But all I would urge you to do is to remember how I open with. Remember, these things are human-shaped. Not business-shaped or corporate-shaped or government-shaped, but human-shaped. And don't deny yourself or the internet the pleasure of your own humanity and laughter and joy and friendship.